Does a Kundalini awakening or a spiritual awakening mean that you're going to be more drawn towards a particular profession, a job? Does it automatically bring you enlightenment, liberation? Does it automatically bring you onto the spiritual realm or path and make you a spiritual teacher, maybe a guru? Are you automatically going to be celibate? Are you automatically going to be religious or spiritual? Are you automatically going to abstain from material pleasures in your life? Does Kundalini awakening go hand in hand with you abstaining or stopping yourself from enjoying the pleasures of being a human or being embodied? Does salvation mean freedom from pleasures? Does freedom mean abstaining from pleasures? Does abstinence from sensual pleasures, abstinence from enjoying the beauty of life or even material pursuits equate enlightenment, liberation? So folks, there are lots and lots of things that we expect that might come hand in hand with a Kundalini awakening or a spiritual awakening. There are those of us who have almost been brainwashed as to what a spiritually awakened person might look like, might feel like, might act, might behave. And for some of us, these things are cultural. It depends on where we were brought up. It depends on the sort of even religious context within which we came to be, the belief systems of our parents, of our ancestors, the karma of the country within which we were born, and all else around us that society has nominated as what behavior is befitting to those of us or those that are spiritually acclimatized or that are spiritually awakened, spiritually have reached. Right? Now the thing is, folks, now because we have come along so far from these belief systems, or at least we think we have, for those of us who are actually going through genuine spiritual awakening, one thing that you're going to completely wash yourself off of is these same belief systems. And one thing that you'll start to realize, if anything, a spiritual awakening is like you completely stripping down to nothing, is you completely bearing yourself out. You are no longer at the behest of any belief. But when you are in a transition, so when you're suddenly hit by this spiritual awakening, when there's been a paradigm shift of consciousness, and when you now have to find your own mold, when you're breaking away from these old systems and you're finding one that works for you, one that you're carving out for yourself, one that is a path that is yours and a path that is you, that you're going to tread on, a path that is all about you being able to fully express yourself with total freedom, which is what so many of us are seeking when we're looking for new relationships, new jobs, whatever it is that it is you want to find the perfect environment, whether it is a relationship or whether it is a belief system within which you're able to fully and freely be you. And you fully and freely being you, the most authentic you, depending on where you are on this continuum of consciousness, is when you can fully express the Shakti within you. The Shakti within you, which is your power, which is the divine feminine. You can call it divine feminine, you don't have to, but that which is the creative potential for us to be able to freely express our creative potential, right? A bit like a child with no restraint, a child with no restraint, a child who's not being told, these are the rules, these are the norms, and this is what it is for us to be in society, a society that is civilized, a society that has these social graces that one must adhere to, or one must speak in a certain way, or one must not speak of certain things, lest you are not accepted in society or rejected by society or even thought of as mad or insane, so much so that you might even be institutionalized, and some might find themselves in places like this when you put forth a belief or you put forth a vision or something that you've experienced that is not the norm. And a lot of you will find yourself in situations like this, those of you who are going through genuine Kundalini awakening, and those of you who don't even have a teacher or somebody that you can look up to or look for guidance, and you've been pretty much guiding yourself through this whole process. So some of you may be greeted with very odd looks about you or your beliefs, so people might think that you're just a bit mad and you're not quite all there, you're a bit crazy or whatever you're suggesting. I mean, how can the moon possibly affect our moods, right? What is solar flares? So when we start to talk in that language, or for some of you who are going through your star seed journey, some of you are going through Kundalini awakening, or you might have an affinity towards certain aspects of Tantra, so you will have your own language or your own code, which is pretty much going to boil down to the same thing, which is you going back to the root of you going back to your awakened state. And in an awakened state is a state that is aware of origin, and lives original, lives in their originality, or lives through that origin. That is not to say that you're going to now try to be original, because actually none of us can really truly be original. And what that means, because we all originate, so we all have an origin, and I don't mean a physical origin like where you come from and all of that, but our home or the source of us, everything that comes from that source, whether it is coming from one person or a person A or a person B, as long as it is coming from that unadulterated, and we see the parallels of these two truths, maybe from two different people, person A and person B, then we can say it's the same thing. And because it's the same thing, it's not original. But what gives it a unique hue and shade is your unique karmic blueprint. So, folks, spiritual awakening or Kundalini awakening is not you giving up, or you abstaining from life, or you moving away from sensual pleasures or material pursuits. If anything, it is you fully embodying yourself. And being fully embodied is not just I am spirit having this physical experience, or everything is spiritual and where I'm only going to live my life in this way and not in that way. But it's to actually see all of it. You see, if you can't see spirit all pervading, because it is all pervading, when we cross over, when we go through that spiritual awakening, it's no longer going to be that, this is spiritual and this is not. This is of origin and this is not. Go back to a mud hut and a building. Yeah? Look to the origin of everything the materials of creating that building, say the cement, where did it come from? The mortar, where did all these things come from? Then look at the mud hut. Where did all these things come from? And where are they all going? The 5 elements. It's all come from that. One will be shaped in this way. One will be shaped in another way. One will have, certain architecture will be a little bit different. Something will be a little bit different. And then what then is contained within this will also then create that little unique difference. But ultimately, that same spirit will be pervading all of this. So folks, when you go through a spiritual awakening and a Kundalini awakening, either both or one, whatever it is, as long as you've gone through a paradigm shift of consciousness, you will know that in itself does not now mean all that you thought it meant. If at all you did have any thoughts about it, or an idea, or we might have heard of great saints or people in the past or people even in the present, and you think, well, that's the saint, they're quite spiritually realized, and we then try to emulate their behavior. We look at that behavior and we think, well, that's the behavior that is befitting of somebody in that. Except, folks, which is going to be the premise of our next post, you are not your behavior. Behavior is not the same as spiritual awakening, right? You're not that which you put yourself out to be at all times, because we are in different outfits all of the time, in different stations all of the time. But it is to see past that. So in a spiritually awakened state, because you're able to see past that, you become extremely powerful. You are so powerful that it is almost impossible to control you. It is almost impossible to manipulate you. Moreover, you yourself will not be part of these things of manipulation, or you don't pander to those things, you see, because you're now neutral, you're indifferent. So you're not trying to be a winner or a loser. There is no side for you to pick. You're just awake. When you're just awake, you just see things for what they are. You're very clear on that. With that level of clarity, you're not somebody who's going to be swayed. As we said in our previous post on impression, you're not impressionable anymore. Impressions mean nothing. They just are, just an impression. So you, someone who is now spiritually awake, you're awake. You can see things. So for you, that doesn't then mean that right now, because I'm a spiritually awakened person, I've got to dress in a certain way, I've got to maybe wear a million, malas, and maybe I've got to be doing certain mantras, and I've got to be meditating, I've got to be doing my yoga, I've got to have some tools. You see, the thing is to get yourself to a point that you are your only tool. Yeah. Yes, all of these tools play a part. They are important to us. They are important when we need those tools to bring us to that point of, right, I'm tool free. Because I've realized, you have realized, that the biggest tool at your disposal at all times is you. And born of you is your awareness. Yeah. You come first, then your awareness comes. Not the you that you think you are. It's not the you that is, this body and all else, or all the conditioning and everything that we've gathered to say, well, this is it. A great indifference befalls you. In a spiritually awakened state, you see, you don't have this kind of, you've become very clear on society, on norms, on belief systems, on conditioning, on patterns. And this is when we say you've now moved away from karma. You've moved away. You're not accumulating it, because you no longer have an association with the sense of doership. Because see, doership only comes when there's an end towards which we are doing something. When our doing has no end, there is nothing, there's no fruit of that labor, good or bad fruit. This is nothing. Yeah? That's when your will and his will. I'm just using that as language, but your will and the will. Your mind and the supramind. Your Jivatma and Paramatma. Yeah? Your Shakti and Parashakti. You move to that stage of Para. And that stage of Para is nothing. Nothing. See, when you become free, so why are we always craving? We always say, I wish I had financial freedom. I wish I had somebody to take care of me. I wish I had this support. Or I would do this, I would do that. Ultimately, what are you craving? Freedom. Freedom. But freedom from what? Freedom from what? Is it freedom from society? Is it freedom from other people? Is it freedom from our financial shackles, whatever that may be? Freedom from having to pay rent, or freedom from whatever it is, your predicament, freedom from an illness, freedom from pain, freedom from an abusive relationship. It could be so many things, but what? Ultimately what? Freedom. When you walk or tread on this path of being spiritually awakened, you're free. You're free from yourself. You're free from the ideas and concepts that you have built around what it means to be you, what it means to be free, what it means to be spiritually awakened. Because ultimately, when you are spiritually awakened, you are just at a point of, I just am. You just are. So it is not about I am spiritually awakened, or if anything, you live your life 200%. If you're going to be down, you're really going to be down. You're going to be up, you're going to be up. But everything, nothing escapes you. That's the level of sensitivity that you have at the moment. A level of awareness that you have at the moment. And the beauty of a spiritual awakening is that you're very self-aware. When things happen outside of you and you're reacting to something, you catch yourself and you know that you are reacting. You know that if you're being triggered, you can identify that you are being triggered. That is the beauty of being spiritually awake. That all fingers are here. They're never there. You can look at yourself and you can square yourself. You don't need anyone to tell you. You don't need anyone to show you. You see, maybe these are the areas of growth. Maybe this is something you can improve upon. No. Because by now you have become so responsible. By now you have taken the bull by the horns. You have taken your essence and made it the priority of your life, and ensure that you will always live in and through this essence, sending you so much authenticity, so much love, so much great, that you can look at yourself and say to yourself, I thank you for being you. I thank you for showing up in your truth, in your essence, in your authenticity, in your self-awareness for yourself without judgment today.